You're listening to the Sisters in Loss podcast, a faith-based grief and loss podcast for Black women, where you will hear stories of miscarriage, infant loss, stillbirth, and infertility to learn there is a testimony in tragedy. You will learn how to heal, gain clarity, find hope and peace, and turn your pain into your purpose after loss. I'm your host, Erica M. McAfee. Welcome to episode 84 of the Sisters in Loss podcast. Pregnancy loss and infertility can be so hard on a marriage. It can either tear the couple apart or bring them closer together. In fact, it is said that almost 80% of couples who experience a miscarriage or infertility end up in divorce. In this month of love, we will be featuring 4 couples showing by faith, prayer, and a strong commitment to stay together, their marriages endured the hard times of pregnancy loss and infertility. In this episode, we have the Pruitts, who share their infertility journey and how they are gracefully waiting on their promise from God. Glenn and Natasha have been married for 4 years and live in Austin, Texas. They have never conceived, so that led to many doctor's visits, trying different types of medications, having procedures, many emotional roller coasters, an attempt to foster to adopt a teenager, which definitely tested their marriage. Gracefully Waiting was birthed with anticipation of giving hope to other women battling infertility. The Hope gift boxes allows Natasha to share her story and start a conversation of giving hope in the midst of the storm. In this episode, we learn how the Pruitts are gracefully waiting for their blessing while serving God and being faithful to the call on their lives as ministry leaders. Here are the Pruitts. Well, thank you to the Pruitts, Natasha and Glenn, for being on the podcast.
Hello.
Hi.
So, just share a little bit about yourselves and what you did.
Okay, so about Glenn and I, we've been married for 4 years, and we're from Paris, Texas. If anybody knows where that's at, it's on the other side of Dallas, about 2 hours. But we currently live in Austin, Texas. We are both educators. We work in different school districts, but our both passion is working in the school system. And we're our youth pastors, youth leaders at our church. So we work with the youth and the youth leaders. So we're very active at church, not only working with the kids at the school, but also at our church. For this infertility journey, we've kind of been on this for 4 years, pretty much. And if things doesn't happen, it'll be the 5th year this year. So 105 years in June to be married. And so that's kind of a little introduction. Glenn, you have anything to add?
What she said, pretty much.
Awesome. So take us back on that journey. Take us back, to the beginning of marriage, and then when you all decided y'all ready to grow your family, and just take us through.
Okay.
I think for me, I was not necessarily aware that we were already trying to start a family right after we got married. And so that, just kind of some things that I guess miscommunication or just not understanding. And then I had noticed that she was feeling down, a couple of months after we'd been married. And I was like, what's going on? And she was telling me, she had started her cycle or whatever. And she was feeling, disheartened by that. And so that's what kind of really sparked this journey to see what was going on and, just journeying through it for the past 4 years. And so really it has been at times a test of our marriage and our faith, but we've survived, we've come through it, and we've found things to put in place to keep us happy. We have 2 incredible godsons that just are amazing, and they bring joy to our lives all the time. Even, like she said, working with the youth at church, we love them like they're our own children. And even at work, she worked with elementary and I work with middle school, and both are very challenging, but rewarding at the same time. And so we have those things, that keep us not so much focused on the downside of infertility, seeing children and keeping us lifted. And that way, we're able to support each other better that way as well.
I'll add to that. As women, we track everything. So for me, starting at the beginning, March 31st, 2014. We'll not forget that date when we agreed, like, okay, let's try, And so starting with the whole process, you get married and you're like, oh, we're going to have a family and it's going to be like quick because, they always say, oh, that's one time. You're like, okay, I'm banking on that. And then 6 months go by to the whole monthly thing, checking, having the pregnancy test, and then you keep getting a negative or like something, right? And so kept going, went to my doctor, my first doctor, and was like, hey, something's not working. And so we went through the whole process, and I had to, switch doctors because I wasn't getting the response and like the compassion that I had. So I switched doctors, and we kind of went through that journey of starting the different medications. Well, for me, I'll say just for me, because I guess we'll talk about it later on, but for me, I felt I was on this mission. So I was determined to get pregnant. And so went to the doctor's appointment by myself, and we had different plans. We started medications and everything, and still was not working. And that kind of, like you said, it did test our marriage, our commitment, our faith, it not only in God, but in each other. And so as maybe within the last year is when we became really close and was beginning to do this together, not as this is Natasha, she's going to the doctor's appointments and she's doing A, B, and C. Whereas even though I had the support of my husband, but he didn't really know what was really going on. I'd come home, well, I got to take this prescription, but really didn't know why I had to take that prescription. And so just that there by itself, starting from 2014 up to this point, I can say it has been a roller coaster with emotions. As a woman that has a desire to have a baby, you go through the lack of, am I even worthy to have a kid? What's wrong with me? Why me? I kept asking God, why me? I did it right according to the Bible and how we was raised, but at the same time, I could not understand why we wasn't conceiving. And so went through all the various tests and, to come find out, oh, you have this diagnosis. Oh, you have this diagnosis. Oh, we have this unexplained infertility. Well, okay, what does that mean? So they kind of went from the getting married, all excited, downhill. And like what he said, he didn't quite understand why I was down, and sometimes felt like, well, he doesn't understand emotionally, because when a woman has a heart desire to have a baby, that's their mission. They want to have a child, and there's something about the connection. But I think the miscommunication is, hey, we're going to try, but this may happen. But we didn't have that kind of support where people talked about this infertility is something real. And I didn't hear about that until we started trying. Prior to that, I hear nothing about infertility, until we start trying up to this point.
Tell us about how your faith has played a role in this, because now you all are out. You're still serving in the church. You're still leaders in the church. You're working with kids week to week, month to month, and still have that desire to have a child. So really share with the listeners how your faith played a role into you all individually and then coming together as a couple with this journey.
For me, for my faith in this, I would say it has brought me closer to Jesus Christ. My relationship is stronger. Before I didn't understand the process. Now I'm trusting God in this process. I would say my faith is stronger for getting in his word and understanding why things may happen the way they're happening. For me, I found ladies in the Bible that was bearing and then later on had conceived. That gave me hope. And so that's what I stand on and what I research on. Yes, I have my moment. Yes, I may cry. Yes, I might, when I get a negative, I'm going to shed a tear. But then again, for me personally, it's like, okay, yeah, you had your moment. Let's keep it moving. Let's refocus, because there's another woman that just got the same test result. Let's see what we can do to help her out. So my focus shifted to pour into other people, pour into other women and couples that's in the same boat as we are. So that's kind of how it helped me as far as my faith walk.
And for me, it's just, I've always been the type, if God is giving me a promise, I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to hold on to it and not really wonder or question, when it'll happen. But of course, you get anxious and worried, and, no man, no husband that I know likes it when their wife is sad or crying. And so you just kind of feel hopeless. As men, we like to be fixers and manipulators, manipulate things to make it work. And to see, Natasha down or sad, that just makes me realize that this is beyond my control. And so that for me is where I sometimes began to question, God, what is this? Why is this happening? But then, like she said, she found women in the Bible And I also, turn to the men in their lives in the Bible where they prayed for their wives' wombs to be opened, And so that's where I've been, it's where my faith is, and just pray that prayer, God, I know it's in your timing. Whatever it is that you decide and when you decide, we'll, be thankful and grateful, but just praying, God, whatever this is that's causing it to remove it and, to open it up so that, we can conceive and multiply as what the Bible says.
Okay. And for both of us, I believe in our faith walk as a married couple has brought us even closer. Like I said before, it can either make your marriage or break your marriage. And in this case, it has kind of pulled us apart, but it brought us back together. I think the very important thing is we're on the same page. We're not praying for different things and then expect something to happen. No, we're on the same page, and we, have that open communication and say, hey, how are your thoughts and feelings about this? Well, let's go to God and let's pray this together. We're on one accord. And like I said, I think that's very important to have that oneness, that unity in your marriage, and then on that to seek God together and watch Him manifest the things that we have been praying for. And even though they may not happen right at the moment, we know it's coming because, God's promises are in Him, yea and amen. And so that's what we stand on, and what He has showed us, that's what gives us hope, and that's what strengthens our faith and our walk in Him.
Join me and my sisters-in-laws in the DMV on Saturday, April 13th, 2019 at 11 a.m. at Busboys and Poets Tacoma at our annual Sisters-in-Laws brunch. While dining on traditional brunch classics and mimosas, our sisters will enjoy a powerful keynote speaker, a live podcast panel discussion featuring 3 local organizational founders, where we'll be discussing the topics of maternal and infant mortality outcomes for Black women and supporting Black women through miscarriage, pregnancy loss, and infertility. There will be fellowship, swag bags, and so much more. To secure your ticket, go to sistersinlawsbrunch.com. Once again, that is sistersinlawsbrunch.com. I cannot wait to see all my sisters in the DMV on Saturday, April 13th. What is one thing that you learned the most about your relationship?
For me, it's really the commitment to our vows that we made, for better, for worse, for sickness and health, for rich, for poor, all of those things. You really get tested in those areas at times. And, for something as far as infertility, you may not really realize it, but that is something that really can affect all of those vows, and so that's one thing that I've learned, it's tested us, but it's brought us closer. We've endured, it's not been without its ups and downs. We've argued some things, but through it all, we've come together. We've worked it out, and we're in it together.
And I totally agree with that. It has tested us, but at the end of the day, we did make the commitment to God. It did come with trials and tribulations, and sometimes we have to get through those. We have to go through them. There's no way around it. There's times where I'm like, I don't even want to go through this no more. I'd just rather be fine where I'm at. But at the same time, the Lord knows our heart's desire, and I know He's going to give us our heart's desire. But then again, it's not going to come without any struggle or anything like that. He just don't hand it to us. Through that, I think that's to build our character, to build our relationship with Him. That's like pulling us more closer to Him. When we seek His face more, and God, I know you can do this and that, but I thank you for just being God. And so when we can stand on those things and have the foundation that we do have, that keep us afloat and that keep us to keep going forward, that help us to stay focused on the prize from the beginning to the end. But in that middle, it seems to be the most challenging. But I have learned that to use that middle part and that platform to pour into other people, to pour into one another. We still have date nights. We might not have kids, but right now we have date nights. We invest in each other. Whatever's going on at his school, we support one another that way. Now we investing in our godsons. We have them, where they get comfortable to be around us and say, okay, I know who you are. And so now we're pouring into them and like, hey, we have 2 beautiful godsons that is full of life. And so I think with that, it just trying to help us in our relationship.
So what is one thing that you all have learned about each other through this journey?
Well, that's a good one. Well, I learned about Mr. Glenn.
You tell she has.
Let's see here. That is a good question. I would say he is persistent. He's rooted in his faith. And with me, I'm not claiming that. I used to be a wary wart, where when things are happening chaotic, stuff is going around us, he just is calm and collected. And so that has helped me to understand, Tasha, you don't have to always react to when things happen or don't go the way you thought it should go. And so Glenn, for me, what I learned about him, he doesn't give in easily. Even though we're dealing with infertility, like I said, the beginning, it was kind of like, oh, and in my mind, it's like, I need you to have emotions like I'm having emotions. So for him, it's just like, he's calm. He observes before he bonds. It's kind of like he thinks about, seeking God and asking for wisdom, how to approach this. Me on the other end would have been like, oh my gosh, the doctor's saying A, B, and C. Where now when the doctor say this, I said, okay. And so then I seek God. So I see him that being persistent, and then as far as his character, as far as responding to certain things in our marriage.
For me, I would say Natasha. I want to say stubborn, but that's not the right word. And because I don't want to make it give it a bad connotation, but determined, I guess. And she's always found something. Like, she's very crafty, and if you could see our dining room table right now, it's full of her arts and crafts stuff. But she's always been able to find things to do to keep her occupied and to help other people. She's just been determined and motivated through her love for arts and crafts to share our story and, more personally, her story from a woman's perspective. But that's, definitely one of the things that I've learned, and I've seen her grow that way. And of course, with her place, like she said, she used to be a worrywart. And I told her this the other day, like I've seen her grow so much in her faith, because one of the things that she told me when we were first dating, she's like, if you want to go now, you can, because I just want to let you know, I worry about everything. Like, I'm a worrywart. For me, that was maybe a challenge to say that we're going to see about that, how much you worry, and for me to be, very laid back. Like, so I worry about stuff, but I really don't let it get to me that much. If it's an issue, I may dwell on it for a minute, and then after that it's done. I'm done with it. And so I was like, I think she's worth it. So we're going to see what this is all about. And so, through the course of our 4 years of dating and now our 4 years of being married, I've definitely seen her grow so much. And there's still some times where she worries, we all do, but it's nowhere near what it used to be. And just seeing that, from her, to see how much she's grown and her faith, how much she has faith in God. And, there's some times where she's pulling me like, look, man, you got to come on, because you're dragging or whatever. So I definitely see that, where she, takes those roles sometimes where she's like pulling me along. But, that's to say the testament of how you can take a negative and turn it into a positive, and allow God to guide you and give you wisdom in the situation. And so, for me, just watching her faith blossom, that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed and learned about her.
So let's talk about turning your pain into purpose, and talk about, you started with Gracefully Waiting and the memory and keepsake boxes that you have. So tell us the inspiration behind that, and then what are you all doing now with the memory and keepsake boxes?
Oh, okay. So Gracefully Waiting was birthed 2018, because I had back surgery in 2017, so kind of on bed rest. So I remember God giving me that name. At the time, I did not know what that meant. I was like, okay. And as I seek his face and was, asking for direction, like, God, what does this mean? And then it was like, oh, the light bulb came on. It's like, this is a platform for you to pour into other women. still didn't understand. I knew it had to do with my fertility journey. And so with the Gracefully Waiting, it started out with the Hope gift boxes, which it includes like a baby onesie, a mom's shirt and bracelet, and a personal note for me, just to encourage the woman on this journey, we're on the same journey. And so to give them hope and encouragement, let them know their promise will come to pass. And so that right there really set the foundation. I really didn't share it with anybody, like, oh, I'm going to do this and that, because I had a whole bunch of other things on my plate. But this year, end of last year and this up to now, is like, I'm going to pour into this. And just about to start doing that, I start adding other services that I'm going to implement, such as support groups for women and marriage couples. Also, I have a book club. A book that we're reading is called Hannah's Hope, about Hannah in the Bible. And also, and then we also have a meetup for that. And then today was my first online prayer line for pray for healing and restoration for women and married couples through this infertility journey. So that really opened the door for me to just pour into it. And it's almost kind of like when you let go of the things that you have crowding and cluttering your thoughts and everything, once you fully walk into what God has purposed you for, things start happening. And I promise you, the opportunities are happening. Doors. Can you get out?
Are opening.
Oh, opening. Thank you. And I'm getting excited. And so with the Hope box is more of the anticipation. For me, prior to this, I have a little red box that I have 2 baby onesies in it. And to another person, they're like, you're crazy. Why you got baby ones? You don't even have a baby. That for me was the first step of believing God that He's gonna bring it to pass. I was in Dillard's and I was like, I'm gonna go in the baby section and bought a Sunday dress. Again, people would think I'm probably crazy. So that's kind of built up until the Gracefully Waiting and the Hope gift box. I do also offer the rainbow box for women that, had conceived and lost their baby. And so just giving that opportunity for women to let them know they're not alone. Someone is praying for them, someone is standing in the gap for them. I might not experience loss, but I can only imagine what a woman is going through when they have lost a baby. My sister experienced it. So I have a, inkling idea of what's going on, but I never felt what they're feeling. So for me to say, I can offer prayer for my sister that is going through, that's dealing with these different emotions during the holidays. And so that's what Gracefully Waiting is, having that foundation to start the conversation about infertility, because, like a lot of people don't talk about it. It's something that's a hush. But once I start the conversation, it blows my mind when women out of the woodwork be like, yeah, I lost a baby. Or, women like in the church, so, they don't talk about that. But to hear women in the church to say, I miscarried or stillborn, it's just something about like, wow, like if we talk more about this, I think more women will come out about it and talk more about it. So that's what Graceful Waiting is, and just trying to start that conversation.
It's the reason why I started this podcast, for the same reason. We never share that at all. So it's good to be able to have a platform like this and a platform like yours where we're able to, speak hope, give people and to let them know that they aren't alone. So I like to end the podcast on just an encouraging note. So for you all, what encouraging words or inspiration can you leave the couples that are out there that are listening on their journey as they gracefully wait for their promise from God?
Don't give up. Don't give up. Keep the hope in the Lord. We don't understand at the moment, but everything works together for our good. What we are facing today as an individual and as a couple is not even for us, for the next person that we might encounter down the road, because what we're seeking, they're going to need the same thing. And for us to be able to go through this journey and to heal, because it's also healing, we'll be able to pour and share what God has did for us.
And I'll also add, have, a close friend, somebody that you can lean on. There are some things that I may be experiencing that Natasha won't understand, but I've got my brothers that I can talk to, and the same thing for her. There's some things that she deals with that I don't understand, but she's got her sisters that she can talk to. So definitely have somebody, a support, team that you can talk with. I've thought about two of my brothers in Christ that I can really just share whatever I need to with, and I trust that it won't go any further, but they'll, listen and they'll pray with me, and so that's something really, really big, is a support group to help during that time as well.
Well, thank you to Natasha and Glenn for being on the podcast and sharing your story and sharing Gracefully Waiting. So where can we find you all and Gracefully Waiting on social?
On Facebook, is listed as Gracefully Waiting, 1 Samuel 1:27. And on Instagram, it's Gracefully Waiting 127. And then we also have a website, gracefully-waiting.com, www.gracefully-waiting.com. And we're also reachable by email, contact@gracefully-waiting.com.
Thank you all so much for being on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I pray that this show was inspirational and a blessing to you. For show notes, visit ericamcafee.com/podcast. Please join us in our offline discussions in our private Facebook group by going to sistersinloss.com. If you're listening in Apple Podcasts, please rate and subscribe to us and leave us a 5-star review. I pray that you all have a blessed week. Keep the faith, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday.